Well, that's a good segue into episode 13, which is our 6-month anniversary. I don't know. What do we call that, Cormac? You were saying earlier?
I think it's the paper anniversary, and that means that people should send money.
And speaking of that, we had 2 people this week support the show and become friends of the show by going to archispeakpodcast.com/donate and clicking the donate button. And the first one is Eric Jens. He's working in the architecture field. He loves bees. I've gotten to know him a little bit on Twitter, and I think he interacts with all of us on there. So he's a cool guy, and we appreciate
very cool. Thank you.
His support. Yeah, thanks, Eric. And the second is Enoch Sears from the Business of Architecture podcast, which we were actually on the last 2 episodes. He split it up into a couple because there was so much wisdom thrown down on that podcast by you two, at least.
Is that what we're calling it?
Is that, wisdom? Really? Okay.
And so Enoch is also officially a friend of the show, at least for this week he is. And everybody still has an opportunity to become a friend of the show. And over the next few weeks, we're going to be running this where if you go to archispeakpodcast.com and click on the donate link at the top, we appreciate any donations, $5, and we read your name live on the podcast the following week.
I have a question. When is Neil going to be a friend of the show and listen to one of the old podcasts?
When you pay me $5.
Neil's been there, done that.
What's architecture really about? Archispeak is a show that dares to peek under the architectural kimono, exposing what architecture really is, what it is that architects really do, and show you why we are passionate about our chosen profession. I'm Evan Troxel. Join Neil Pan, Cormac Phelan, and me as we have a casual conversation about all things architecture, which includes all the stuff people don't talk about. Think you already know what architecture is really about? Tune in to find out. It's time for some Archispeak.
So yeah, episode 13. We are over halfway through our fiscal year here at Archispeak.
And we have a positive balance sheet now.
That's right. Yeah, we're plus 10 on that. Actually, we're minus a lot more than that. It costs a lot of money to do this.
That's true. And Cormac's got a new mic, so
there you go.
Deal. So we got to pay for Cormac's new mic. So
that's right.
No, but this has been great. I personally, really enjoyed the feedback from everyone who's listened, that's interacted with us on our Facebook page or through Twitter. It seems like it started kind of slow and has been building lately. I mean, we've been asked to appear on some other podcasts and do some video podcasts. It's an honor. I mean, we just kind of threw this together and just wanted to talk architecture like real architects do. And, it's been a lot of fun for us, and we hope everybody's been kind of enjoying the show. And please keep sending that feedback and giving us ideas and comments.
Yeah, and we're working on some cool things for the future, some different things. And, I mean, the last 6 months have flown by. I don't know about you guys, but I can't believe that we've already cranked through 6 months of this. It's been pretty cool.
I was telling my wife, I was like, we've been doing this for 6 months. She goes, really? So she's actually equally impressed that we've been doing this for 6 months.
We've stuck to it. That's right. Every 2 weeks. Even working through vacation schedules.
Yes.
And
exactly.
Being on opposite sides of the country, scheduling. Everybody knows how hard that is.
Just scheduling in general.
True. So yeah, it's been cool, and it's obviously been a learning experience. But hopefully everybody has noticed that the production quality of the show has gone way up over the last 6 months. We've worked out the kinks and got a good workflow going. And I don't know if you guys saw, but today, or maybe it was today or yesterday, Apple announced that through iTunes alone, there are over 1 billion podcast subscriptions. And that doesn't count, Stitcher Radio. It doesn't count just people going to websites, listening to podcasts. None of that. So that's just through iTunes. And that's huge. I mean, I'm really happy that we're a part of that. I think that's a cool thing.
We're like 0.00001% of that number, but it's an honor. It's fantastic.
It is. And, Evan, your blog post on evantrucks.com about podcast, actually, I found a couple of new ones to listen to.
There's so many out there. Yeah.
There is.
There's some really good ones. And yeah, those, I put a short list on there at the end that just kind of talked about, some of the ones that are my favorites. And, some of them, I just like having them there. Like I was on a plane flight going up to go whitewater rafting last weekend, and I must have listened to 6 of them as I was in the airport, on the plane, getting the rental car, and I just love the ability to have that stuff kind of on demand. It's really cool.
I think it's great because I've talked to a lot of people who over the past week, I've been talking to people about our podcast, and, a lot of them are like, well, I've never really podcasted before. How do you do it? And first I tell them, go to the website, and, you can either listen to it through there, or, now I actually have a link to your blog that I can send everybody to say, here's your step-by-step how to get started with podcasts. But I've talked to a lot of people who've said that they followed links through all sorts of different, avenues, whether it's through iTunes, whether it's through, things like Business of Architecture. It's interesting to get the reaction of people that I've known for, going on decades, and they're just like, wow, it's almost a no-brainer that somebody should have been talking about this in architecture all along, but nobody ever really does.
Well, and we should also say, there's been a few people out there who have really helped out. You mentioned Enoch at the Business of Architecture, having us on there. We were on Eric Bobro's Marketing for Architects webinar. Our friend Bob Borson had a banner on his site for the podcast, which helped a lot. Mm-hmm. Jonathan Brown put a banner on his website, which helped a ton. I know that Mark LePage at Entrepreneur Architect Podcast mentioned Archispeak a couple times in one episode. He's also mentioned us in his 8 Architects That Are Changing Things blog post. That was huge. And so, I think that we couldn't have done it without all those people where we are now. I think that really motivates us to keep doing this. And you guys should all know that we've got a topic list that's, 30 bullets long already. There's just so much to talk about. And you're right, Cormac. It seems like, if you have people asking you how to do a podcast, I mean, we need more people talking about architecture. And so you guys can feel free to get in touch with us, and we'll get you in the right direction if you wanted to start a podcast too. It's not that hard. So I think that would be cool to hear more people talking about their experiences in the field of architecture.
Absolutely. And as we've all talked about in the past and through the various interviews of people asking us, well, why are we really doing this? And just the simple fact of getting the voice of like your everyday architectural professional from the trenches really kind of helps kind of shake the myth that architects are this unapproachable, can't work with, they live in the clouds. And
the Ivory Tower, actually.
The Ivory Tower, thank you.
That's where I live. But
Oh, that's right, you do. Sorry.
That's right.
Okay.
Carved it
so
myself.
Scratch that.
Well, he does live in Southern California, so.
Yep, it's true. But yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it has made it where it's kind of just made it a little more accessible for people. And that's really, that's our tagline, right? Giving you a peek behind the architectural kimono.
Exactly.
So it's been a fun 6 months.
Absolutely. Well, let's look forward to the next 6 months. And tonight, I think we were going to talk a little bit, well, tonight could be today when you're listening, some missed opportunities. And Evan, I think you had some experience you wanted to share with us about that.
Well, I missed opportunities is one way to put it. I love this passage that I copied out of a book called Design as a Job by Mike Montero, and who also has a podcast that is on my list on my site that I posted today called Let's Make Mistakes, which is a great podcast. But it's about compromise. It's about designing compromise into our projects before a client ever has the chance to make an educated decision about design options, or the what if question. What if we went this direction? And a lot of times, I see people who are working on these projects, and often very confidently express that the client will never go for that before even asking the client if they will go for that. And so, this is the passage. It says, "Always design the best choices. Compromises will always come later on down the road, with much argument, after much salesmanship. But if you're coming to the table with a compromise in hand, even before you've tried selling your best work, you'll end up losing the client's respect, which you were so naively craving anyway. You can't design in fear. Don't throw the fight before a punch gets thrown." And that, when I read that the first time in his book, man, that resonated with me immediately. It's our job to put the best solutions forward, even what some people would consider the crazy solutions, because they just seem so far out there. But if you really feel like it's the best choice, it's your job to put it out there. And I'm really tired of seeing people second guess their best choices before that option is ever presented to somebody who's actually going to make the decision. And yes, it might be, you might have an argument, which isn't a bad thing. You might have to sell it to them really hard. You might have to make your client think outside the box, or ask them to. But if you're not doing that, then you're just going along with the status quo. And honestly, we don't need any more of that out there. There's a lot of status quo out there.
Well, it's almost the philosophy of, sacrificing for security, because
what's safe. Yeah,
exactly. It's what's safe. What will the client buy without, you're right, without ever asking the client whether or not, this was something, the, kind of like the far out idea that you're talking about was even something that was acceptable. I mean, you never know what you're going to get out of them if you don't ask. I mean, it's like all three of us are fathers, and all three of us tell our children, you won't know unless you ask. And it's almost the same thing with clients. It is the same thing with clients. You'll never know if you don't ask them. If you don't present the idea will never happen.
That's I was going to just say that I recently had that very same experience. I'm doing a remodel, and it's going to be potentially a very significant one. And I was sitting down and sketching away one evening, and just looking. They asked me for some modern design, and so I was looking at some images and saw some curved roofs, flat areas, and just some things that are very different, and certainly outside of the box of, say, their neighborhood. And but they had started down a path before and had something very conventional, and they didn't like it. And so I was sitting there thinking, well, I could preserve. I could go two different ways, and I did actually. I presented both ideas, trying to maintain and preserve the existing roof or most of it to save money. And then I just, did a couple of sketches of some really kind of out there, couple little sketch perspectives of, with some curved roofs, flat areas, and something way out there, a little bit more modern, maybe too far out there for them. But just to gauge their interest. They said modern. They showed me a lot of images that had that in them. And, so it was like, we'll go for it. Take the shot. You've got nothing to lose other than maybe a little bit of your time. but show them something a little outside the box, and they might be surprised, and they may want to do it. So you never know. So don't like you said, don't handicap yourself before you even you go into the meeting.
Well, have you guys heard the quote? I think Steve Jobs has said this in one of his interviews, but he said, good is the enemy of great. And at Apple, we have thousands of good ideas, but we're really proud of the ideas that we say no to, because we only like to say yes to the great ideas. And so there's very few great ideas, and those are the ones that get pushed and collaborated on, and people there definitely aren't afraid of reinventing something, putting something completely different out there. Even when they release the iPad, they're like, we don't know how people are going to use this thing, but here it is. And then, to an amazing response, those app developers out there made things that no one ever dreamed of. And that wouldn't have been possible if they didn't put this, what they considered a great idea, out there. I brought this up to a colleague at work, that quote, and he tweaked it. And he said, what I see more often is that good enough is the enemy of great. And I thought, that's a really interesting perspective to take, because a lot of times when you're designing and you're kind of in your own little silo in your office where everybody's very like-minded, a lot of times you might just do something just to get it over with quickly, and it's good enough. And that's when you really are not putting yourself out there. You're not letting your client see the what if, because it's kind of it's going to work, they're going to accept it, and that is kind of, maybe it's a status quo, maybe it's a little bit above the status quo, but it's not something that really pushes your client's imagination. Those are my favorite stories. I have a couple projects that I've worked on where, and I probably mentioned them on here before, but when you are able to have a client say, man, I never would have thought of that. And they get so excited when they see it and they think about it, and they can't wait to have that project that is nothing they could have ever dreamed of. Those are the best stories. And that's what drives me to do good design.
And to kind of illustrate that as an example, this same client I was referring to earlier, they were working with, I don't know who it was, some drafter or somebody, and they were kind of doing it themselves. And these are educated people, and they quickly realized, after a while they had a plan, they had some drawings, and they just said, this isn't what we want. We don't know how to do this. And then I got a call. And after our first meeting, they were like, wow, we didn't even think of laying it out like this. And it was like, yeah, that's what you're paying me for.
Exactly.
That's the value that I'm bringing to your project. And that's what makes my fee worthwhile.
Quick, tell all your friends. Right?
Yes, exactly. Quick, tell all your friends. And there's a long way to go on this project. We're just at the very beginning. But, that's exciting for me to hear as an architect that I am bringing that value. It kind of justifies, and it just helps justify it to me and to them, certainly as my client, that they're getting what their money's worth.
Well, to kind of roll that into what Evan's quote was talking about, that they were basically spinning their wheels with a lot of good, or what they thought was good, until they realized that they really didn't know what the hell they were talking about, or just couldn't really pull the grade out of what they were trying to do. And that actually, goes back to illustrating the value of an architect. A home designer that, has got a nice 3D package from Home Depot or whatever is going to give you just, a kit of parts. It's the critical thinkers that, we like to call ourselves, that can pull the greatness out of things. So you actually illustrated to them that the good was there, but let's work together to make it great.
Yep. I have a similar story to Neil's where when I was doing design build with my partner Iggy, we had a client through a friend of Iggy's come to us who wanted to remodel their 1960s mid-century modern house. I mean, it had great bones, you know. It was clear story windows, low pitched roof. It was you know, a really nice house. But they wanted to add on. They wanted to give it a facelift, and they came to us with a set of plans, a set of drawings that were done by Bob's drafting service. I'm not kidding. And it was
not Bob Borson, right?
Not that Bob. Yeah.
No, okay.
And it was turning it into a typical stucco, changing the roof lines to give it gables and putting a tile roof on it. And that's what they thought they wanted. And they said they had a hesitation. And they came to us and said, you know, if this was you, if this was your job, what would you do? And we, you know, this was 2005, 2006, I don't know, it was a long time ago. And we started feeding them Dwell magazine and just saying, you know, just thumb through this and tell us what you think. We ended up doing a complete redesign, a brand new edition, giving their mid-century modern a facelift, new paint materials, but keeping all those bones. And my God, that project won design awards through the city. They got to walk up in front of all these people and accept that award. I mean, it was their house. They should be accepting that award. It was them who said yes to it. And they had the biggest grin on their faces. And that's one of those stories where they're like, we thought we knew what we wanted, but we really didn't. And all it took was a little bit of nudging in a different direction. And they got something so much more out of it. I mean, they were on the job site helping make it because it was theirs, you know. It was very cool to go through that process.
Well, what are some of, you know, where we've talked about a couple of success stories where, you know, being able to push the idea a little bit further kind of blows past those missed opportunities. But, you know, what are some of the things that we see kind of like on a daily basis that are examples of missed opportunities that are just left on the board and never see the light of day? I mean, what are some of the, I guess I'm asking, what are some of the characteristics of things that we can, you know, like the new student that's coming out of school or something can avoid, you know, habits of getting into kind of like the status quo and being able to push themselves further so that they don't actually leave those opportunities on the table, that they've at least explored and expressed them and pushed them as far as they can. And, you know, whether they get shut down or not. And maybe that's it. It's a lot of people leave a lot of opportunities on the table because of fear. You know, it's, well, you know, I don't really want to push the client because then I might lose the job. Well, you never know if you're going to lose the job if you don't push the client. And, you know, your example of the mid-century house, you push the client because the client wanted to be pushed. And look what happened. You've got an award-winning design.
Yeah, you know,
you didn't leave it on the table.
I think that, well, there's a couple things. One thing is that, number one, you do have to get the client comfortable with having those kinds of conversations. And a great way to do that is to ask open-ended questions. One of the things that I like to do when I'm working with a commercial client or an entity is tell me about your company and tell me something that I can't find on your website. And it makes it immediately more personal, and they start opening up to that. Okay, well, I never thought about that. Well, you know, we're really big into sustainability or whatever it is. And here's what we're doing. We're trying to get LEED for existing buildings, and they start going down this path. Okay, so you guys are really into environmental stuff, sustainable stuff, LEED. What else? And if you start asking these kind of questions, and if you finish off the question with what else, it really does open up the opportunity to have these conversations and start to figure out what the right questions are to ask. Because I think a lot of times clients come to us with something in mind. I was working on a project where there was travertine marble that was going to fall off the building, and they wanted to replace it with tile that looked like travertine marble. And I started asking him these kind of discovery questions, trying to find out more about them to see where this project could go. And they opened up and they started talking about their identity and where they want to be in 10 years and how they're trying to change the way people perceive their company. And it's like, okay, guys, we have an opportunity now to do all that through architecture. And do you think that the board of directors for that company ever thought they could do that through architecture? No, they did not. They thought they could do it through advertising, right? And so I think that it's times like that when someone comes to you with a potential solution and you have the ability to ask different questions than they're used to asking good questions, questions that have never been asked of them before. That opens up their mind and gets those gears turning and starts to take away those times when you're just like, okay, well, they asked for tile to go back on the building. I guess we'll do tile. Because I think a lot of times we don't ask the right questions, and so we just do exactly what they said, and then we perceive them as being happy, and then we move on to the next project, and we never were able to transform their entity into something better, something that they wanted it to become, but never thought they could do through architecture.
Well, Evan, I think that you could also turn that around and say, in Cormac's question, for that person that's maybe new to the office or coming out of school, you can ask those very same open-ended questions to your bosses or your coworkers that you're working with on a project. Ask those same questions because, if they haven't asked them, they may not have an answer, or maybe they have and they'll be able to talk to you, or maybe that'll, spur some conversation as to where a project could go and lead to, maybe you get to tag along in a meeting more often because, you're thinking and you're asking questions. And I know when I was managing projects, I appreciated that, from people working with me on projects. Think, ask questions.
Early
on. Yeah.
That's the best time, man, because, and that's what's great about having a diverse team, a team of people of all different backgrounds. And, that's the time when you kind of get to put everything out on the table, and then you can kind of pick and choose from all of these ideas. But there will be people from a different, they'll have a completely different perspective. They can throw something out there, and it'll definitely be something you've probably never even considered, even if you're not in front of the client, you're just in the office kind of shredding the idea. That's the best time to do that.
Well, also too, I think that sometimes offices I think many offices will get into a rut. They've established a workflow, a way to do things, and it works for them, and they just keep doing it. And nobody really thinks, we could maybe do this a little differently. So I'm kind of blending, the idea of, how do we design around, or, for some missed opportunity possibilities. But I'm also thinking just, within how workflow goes in an office to generate designs and or, production documents or construction documents, So sometimes asking those questions like, well, why do we do it this way? Because like you said, Evan, everybody has different experiences. And, you may have worked in a different office and somebody might have set up a drawing a different way. And it'd be like, well, oh, wow, hey, maybe that is a better way. So you never know. But, a caution warning, judge your coworkers and judge your work environment before you start rocking the boat too much.
I think one of the things that is kind of evident in both of your responses to what I was asking about is constant communication is really the key to avoid these missed opportunities that we're talking about. It's engagement of the client, engagement of the creative team, engagement of even simple things is like what is the new materials out there and things like that. What are we what can we pull into this project that is new and exciting that people may or may not have heard. I mean, because you're talking about, well, they just wanted travertine tile, but you gave them a completely new identity by kind of steering them in a direction that really was beyond what they were thinking about. And it was through this constant dialogue, making them, not, a lot of times it's just like, well, we'll involve the client as much as we can just to make them feel like they're involved. And attitudes like that will typically kill. It will be the project of missed opportunities. It will be this just good, so-so, maybe okay, fine building. Or nice, which was always that killer word in studio. Oh, what do you think of this? It's nice. To me, that was the worst word ever.
Stab in the heart. Yeah,
exactly. But I mean, it was it's that constant conversation that you always need to have with the entire team, and that everybody is on equal on equal footing with what's going on with the project. And that for it to be a truly successful building, it's got to have input. It's got to have dialogue from everybody that's involved.
Well, okay, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and both of you were illustrating that point to a T. Is both with Neil, what you're talking about with your new clients in this house, and and Evan, you basically reshaping a marketing aspect for them. I mean, these were things that if either one of you hadn't engaged them, they would have never said, we would have never thought of that. And that, we've never thought of that is golden.
Well, another member of the team that you're talking about is involve your local jurisdiction, who's ever doing the project in that conversation as well. As an example, today I went and spoke with the local jurisdiction on this particular project and discovered that with the way the municipal code is written, we could do a side turn garage and move the house forward another 10 feet. And, so that suddenly, wow, okay, but that totally changes what they were expecting or hadn't even considered.
Paradigm shift, right?
Complete paradigm shift. Right. And so we may or may not go that way, but we may go explore some ideas that opportunities that may give us. But it's like if I hadn't engaged with the city and spoken with them, then, maybe none of us would have known this. We would have gone ahead and just, plowed on through, giving them, what they think they wanted. So that, again, that could have been another missed opportunity. So, I'm trying to go into the project exploring all possibilities. And I'm not perfect. I may not get all of them, but doing my best to get as many, opportunities explored in the beginning so that we end up with a great project. And I think that's what everybody should be doing on any project.
I want to share this with you because, we keep saying the word opportunity over and over again. And I've got another project that's just about to start construct, or actually has started construction a couple months into it, but we're just really starting to come out of the ground. The construction manager on the project, the superintendent, he loves it, rather than saying, hey, we're going to have a problem here, because this is a problem. This is one of those projects where it's Evan, and you'll appreciate this, a phased while occupied project, which means that we're going to be playing musical chairs with the kids in this, in this school to get them basically out of the way for new construction.
Yeah, I call it the Rubik's Cube.
Yeah, complete project that's just a a pain, but he doesn't like to call them pains. He likes to call them opportunities. And, when you really sit down and you look at it, they aren't really pains. They really are opportunities to come up with something creative, to be able to get beyond what we would have considered as a pain and actually be able to make it an opportunity and work it out a lot easier.
Isn't that the classic glass half full or glass half empty sort of attitude?
Well, he is, I've never known how to answer that question, but I will say this. He is a definite optimist, and it's refreshing to have somebody like that, because he is somebody who is engaging everybody in the conversation to make them opportunities and not to make them pains.
That's a positive thing to have on your team.
Yeah, and there's nothing better than you look forward to working with that person.
Oh, absolutely.
And they look forward to working with you. And I mean, there's nothing more exciting as a designer on a project to have a client who is so excited about their project.
Yes.
And if you can invigorate that to happen, I mean, that makes the job so much better and so much easier in so many ways. They end up pushing you, and it started out with you trying to elevate the conversation, and a lot of times they'll surprise you and elevate it right back up. Get you thinking. It's pretty cool.
Well, hopefully with the comments tonight, or comments in this episode, we've got everybody thinking, and please give us your feedback on what you guys think, and also too, what you think of the first 6 months that we've been doing this, and what would you like to see in the next 6 months?
Yeah, I would like to know what's your favorite episode. I mean, what topic have we hit on that really hit home for you at that time? I mean, I'm sure that, like I said, there's so many things we could talk about, but it's kind of cool to find out what other people are into and what they liked.
Yeah, definitely. So with that, if you have any questions and comments, please visit the website at archispeakpodcast.com or at our individual Twitter accounts, which you can find on the website. And also follow Archispeak on Twitter and visit our Facebook page. Engage us there if you can.
And we need more friends.
And we do need more friends. We kind of have this battle going between Twitter and Facebook. They're almost equal.
That's right.
So which one of our followers are going to push it over the edge and really push those numbers? So let's see what happens.
And then remember, too, that you can become a true friend of the show by going to archispeakpodcast.com/donate. And we will read your name on the air. And again, thanks to Eric Jens and Enoch Sears of the Business of Architecture podcast for sponsoring this show. You guys are awesome. And we'll see you guys next week. All right?
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I joined the choir to sing. They're all competing for some other thing. I joined the choir to sing. I joined the choir to sing. They're all competing for some other thing. I joined the choir to sing. Sadness, my soul, all that I've got. But when I'm pleasure is here, so I run on there to earn this is there. Spend time with folks at the home. How you doing? What you doing, boss? With my people, how's the weather? Did you get your rock? Spend time with folks at home. Now I like it automatic. With my people, I joined the army too. I joined the army too. I'm not my ass, please not tell. I joined the army too. I serve my nation, I'm the God. Service my city with all that I've got. But when I'm running, pleasure is here, so I run on it to run this is clear. I serve my nation, I'm the God. Service my city with all that I've got. But when I'm running, pleasure is here, so I run on it to run this is clear. Got started without being, I got needs, I bleed. You could say I beat on the speech. You could say I eat, breathe, the race. My beat, my base, chase the one thing, honey, I